People these days often associate Sheffield United with the words innovation, passion, desire, and even tiki-taka football. But if you'd have told me this on the 8th of May 2016, I'd have laughed straight in your face, because that was just not us. And I'm sorry for this, but in this video I'll be taking you back to the day when we lost 2-0 to Scunthorpe at home, where Nigel Adkins and the players endured the lap of dishonour.
Look around you! You're an embarrassment! You're an embarrassment, look! This is what we think of you! This is what we think of you! Look around you! You're an embarrassment!
This is going to be a tough one. But let's just remember, we're in the top half of the Premier League table. And Nigel Adkins can't damage the club anymore. Lads, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, and in today's video I'll be running you through Nigel Adkins' final Sheffield United 11 and where they are now. So we played Scunny and it was a lovely day, the sun was shining and the birds were chirping. However, they were the only positives I could take out of this day because we were embarrassed by an average Scunthorpe team. And said Scunthorpe team ran out 2-0 winners and we bowed out without even a whimper. And these were the players that steered us to our lowest league finish in decades. George Long. George was one of the only shining lights at the start of this very poor season. But towards the end he got progressively worse. Pretty much like the rest of them. He didn't last long between the sticks when Chris Wilder took the job, as Simon Moore came in to replace him and had an excellent season. George moved on to join Nigel Adkins' Hull City in 2018 and has made 22 appearances in that time. Alex Baptiste. Alex Baptiste came on loan from Borough at the back end of the season and made 11 appearances, before returning back to Borough to be sent out on loan to Preston. He was only let go to a League One club to gain fitness after an injury. And he did alright, I suppose. Let's put it this way, he wasn't terrible. After that he was sold to QPR and made 30 appearances for them in 2 seasons. And he's now playing his football locally at the Keepmoat Stadium for Doncaster Rovers. But that's nothing special, mate. Even I played at the Keepmoat. David Edgar. Now, I wasn't sure what happened to Edgar, so I googled him. And he wasn't even the first David Edgar that popped up. Unless he's a playwright in his spare time. So that should surely tell you the impact that David Edgar had on football. Saying that, I didn't mind him. Like Alex Baptiste, he wasn't terrible. However, he was only on loan from Birmingham and went back the following season. After that, Birmingham City sold him on to Vancouver Whitecaps, which meant he was going back home to play his football. He went on to Nashville and then back to Canada playing for Ottawa, before finally coming back for one last stint in England with Hartlepool. But unfortunately for Edgar, he only managed 9 appearances and is now firmly back in Canada with Canadian Premier League team Forge FC, and he's only 32. Probably not the career he expected when he signed for Newcastle United. Next up, everyone's favourite left-back / centre-back / goalkeeper, Jay McEverley. Now, a lot of people either won't have remembered this or have pushed it out of their brains as much as possible, but Jay McEverley actually started his Sheffield United career quite well. So when we brought him in, he played at left-back, he was steady, and he brought the ball forward with purpose. However, his performances started to slip, and then Adkins started playing him at centre-back. And for some wild reason, he gave him the captain's armband. Oh, Nigel Adkins, what a bad idea that was. But anyway, Wilder saw no use for him and moved him on to Ross County in Scotland in 2016. Jay then moved back near his hometown of Liverpool and signed for Tranmere Rovers, however, only played 11 times. He's now on the books at Warrington Town, who are a non-league club. Yep, he eventually found his level. Paul Coutts. Well, believe it or not, Couttsy back then was not the Blades legend he is today. And I think that was mostly because Nigel Adkins loved to play him on the right hand side of midfield for some reason. Probably due to his blistering pace and his ability to beat a man. Yeah, alright Nigel. Nope, Couttsy was an excellent footballer, great range of passing, reads the game brilliantly. However, he lacks all the attributes to be a right winger. It's like playing Theo Walcott at centre back. An utter disaster. However, most people know what happened to Paul Cooks, but I'll summarise. He was transfer listed, then he worked really hard to get back into Wilder's plans. Never give the ball away. League One champion, ran the championship, leg break, Marvin Sordell, I'll never forgive you. Couldn't budge Ollie Norwood from the team. And he's now doing very well in League One with Fleetwood Town. We still miss you, Coots, eh? Chris Basham. Another one I don't want to speak too much about because he's still in the Blades 11 after 5 years at the club. Not always the most gifted of footballers, but his graft, determination, overlapping and pirouettes have made him a first team regular even in the Premiership and loved by the Bramall Lane faithful. And that's the same with the next player on my list, Dean Hammond. Joke. Which is ironic as that was all Dean Hammond was when he was at the Lane. A joke. Most Blades were buzzing when he first arrived, and he was quite clearly a born winner with having a few promotions under his belt. However, he just didn't have the legs after a few injuries, but I won't give him grief for that. It happens to all footballers at the end of their career, and especially in centre midfield, if you've lost your legs, it's difficult to come back from. But it wasn't that, it was the lack of passion shown, lack of effort, and at the end of his time at United, he activated a clause in his contract to sign a permanent deal, even though he was far from loved at Bramall Lane and knew he wouldn't play. So Chris Wilder decided to pay him off, so Dean left the club in 2016. Straight after, Coventry City took him on trial but decided against offering him a contract. Since then, he dipped in and out of coaching and also played with Leicester City as an overage player for the under-21s. Martin Wolford. Martin was a funny old player. He had a very solid career with Scunthorpe, Bristol City and Millwall before signing for the Blades, and there was obviously talent there. However, I feel like he was in the same bracket as Dean Hammond. He just lost his legs. However, he shouldn't have lost his legs because he were only 29. But he just didn't have the pace that we needed for that time for a left midfielder. And he was made into a little bit of a scapegoat like Dean Hammond was. Since leaving the Lane, he played 9 times for Fleetwood in League One, which proved again he wasn't good enough. But then seemed to find his level in League Two with Grimsby making 66 appearances scoring 5 goals. He's since moved into non-league football with Hyde United and is now on the books at Boston United at 34 years old. Matty Doan. During his Sheffield United career, Matty Doan was kind of used and abused a little bit by some managers. Not literally, but he started as a striker, he was then moved on to the left wing, and he even played some games at left back. Not what you want when you come in as a striker banging in loads of goals for Rochdale in the same league. The thing with Matty Doan is you can't ever fault him because he always put 100% into everything he did, every position that he played. Wilder used him up front for large parts of the following season before allowing him to move back to Rochdale, and he's played 94 times since moving back there. Che Adams. Che showed some excellent promise under Nigel Clough, and this season was supposed to be his time to shine. He scored a few goals in pre-season friendlies and started the season off with 2 goals at home to defeat Chesterfield. However, he had an underwhelming season, even though he scored 11 goals. He blew hot and cold, some games he looked like the best player on the pitch, other times he was just being plain lazy. However, Chris Wilder was forced to sell him when Championship Birmingham City came calling. He played 116 times for Birmingham, scoring 34 goals, which earned him a £15 million move to Premier League Southampton. And finally, Billy Sharp. Like Bash, I'm not going to go on about Sharpie, because we all know he's a legend at the Lane. But in this terrible Adkins season, Sharpie actually scored 20 goals. Imagine scoring 20 goals when being fed by Martin Wolford, Dean Hammond, and in some games being partnered by Connor Salmon. But we'll get to him. Since then, Billy's won 2 promotions with the Blades, and he's still in the Blades Premier League squad to this day. What a man. As I'm assuming this video is probably about 3 hours in, I'll speed through the subs from the Scunny game. First one, Connor Salmon. Salmon was great for 2 games, then missed an open net against Blackpool, and just lost every shred of confidence he ever had. Didn't score many more after that and was sent back to Derby. Since then, he's played for a few Scottish clubs. He hasn't done too badly, to be fair, but every time I see his name on the score sheet on Soccer Saturday, I always have a little chuckle to myself. Louis Reed. Louis Reed was always a nice footballer, but didn't really offer a great deal more, unfortunately. He went alone to Chesterfield when they were in the Football League, and then ended up signing for Peterborough in 2018. And he's appeared for them 43 times since. Harrison Maguire. Harrison only played 22 times for the Blades, and I'm sure many of them games will have been sub-appearances. He seemed okay when he played, but he was rarely given 90 minutes. Maybe for a reason. He then moved on to Rochdale and played 99 times before signing for League 2 Scunthorpe. How times have changed, am I right? Scunthorpe League 2, Blades Premier League. Football's crazy. Florent Cavelier. Cavelier was a player that was just injured a lot. Seemed a nice footballer, which is obviously why he came from Stoke City, but never stayed fit enough to make himself into a first team starter. He went on loan a couple of times, then played a respectable 45 times for Walsall, before playing a whopping 0 games in 3 months for Morecambe. I'm not sure if Flo is retired now, but it is a huge shame for a lad that once played Premier League football for Stoke City. Ben Whiteman. Ben was a youngster that showed promise, and I was actually shocked when we let him go permanently in 2018 to Donny Rovers. But he seems happy and maybe he's found his level. But there's still time on his side, he's only 23. Graham Kelly. Kelly is a player that I never had the pleasure of watching, and still haven't to this day. He's an Irish central defender that came through the ranks at Bramall Lane, however United let him go to Port Vale in 2017 without making a start. He was sent out on loan to Bradford Park Avenue, and now he's playing for professional Northern Irish football club Larne. And finally, Aaron Ramsdale. Barely played a game for the Blades, but was bought by Bournemouth in 2017 and he's played in every Bournemouth Premier League game this season. So that is the full team that were mullered by League 2 Scunthorpe United. They were in League 1 at the time, but you get my gist. And like I said earlier on, how times have changed. From being comfortably beaten by Scunny at home, to beating them to promotion the season after, and now being 3 divisions higher than them, just proves how far we've come. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you found it interesting, and stay in good nick.